What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. We're going to be talking about Scream 7 in this video here today. So Comic Book gave us an exciting interview tonight from Guy Busick, who we know is the writer of Scream 7. He wrote or co-wrote Scream 5 and Scream 6 with James Vanderbilt. He went over the original 7 with Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, went over why Sidney Prescott had to be included in the upcoming 7th entry, and goes over Chad and Mindy's involvement, their return, and addresses the time jump. So, starting off here with the original Scream 7 aspect of this interview, he said the original Scream 7 with Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega was a completely different thing, or this is what Guy Busick told Comic Book in an interview that was designed around Final Destination Bloodline, since we know he wrote that. He said, we weren't able to use what we had in the previous iteration for this one. We just had to start from scratch, which was a bummer. We were excited about what we had for that movie. We wanted to do one more Core 4 movie. And he says, we know the fans love those characters. We love those characters. We created those characters. I would love to see in some universe the continuation of their characters in some way. But we weren't able to port over the stuff from the other story. It was like, okay, here's what the universe dealt us. We always wanted to do a Sidney movie. And so it was like, all right, let's get into it, and why now, and why this one. So then he goes into talking about Sidney and why she's back. So why bring back Sidney now, and why in Scream 7? After all, Gale told Sam and Tara in Scream 6 she deserves her happy ending. He said, I don't want to give anything away about the reason Scream 7 had to be a Sidney movie, because there's a really cool reason. He started to tease. Now, of course, people started to take jabs already over on Twitter about, we know why, it's about the Melissa thing. No. Not those reasons. Those are not related to Sidney Prescott in this fictional world. That's outside reasons. He's genuinely speaking about a reason. I don't think he's talking about Melissa Barrera or being shady towards her. Not everything that they talk about is going to be about Melissa Barrera. Let's just stop that for a second. I think Busick is trying to be genuine here about the reason Sidney Prescott is back. He says, in all of these movies, you have to ask, why now? What is the thing Scream is commentating on now? Scream is always in a conversation with the audience about the state of movies, the state of horror movies, and in particular, franchises. Now, this comment, for me, gives me more confidence that perhaps we are going to go down the route of somebody who idolizes a Final Girl version of Sidney Prescott. They just idolize maybe Final Girls, but they're more of a true crime fanatic. Maybe they aren't a fan at all. They're just a fan of Sidney Prescott, her story, her journey, and they want to see their idol in action. That could be the motive in Scream 7. That is something I feel like is a very respectful angle to take with a Final Girl like Sidney Prescott, who is arguably one of the best, if not the best. You have someone who just wants to see their preferred Final Girl in action one last time. They do not prefer Sidney Prescott, the wife, Sidney Prescott, the mother. They don't stand or favor that Sidney Prescott. They favor the Sidney Prescott in turmoil, fighting for her life, on the brink of a mental breakdown. They want to bring that out of Sidney. So he goes on to say there is a really specific reason why Sidney is in this movie. I will say there is a reason, and we were happy with it when we cracked it. We went to Neve Campbell and said, this is why Sidney now. Neve was like, oh, I get that. I pitched Kevin Williamson this first too. He got it, and then I pitched it to the studio. I came up with the story with my co-writer on Scream 5 and Scream 6, James Vanderbilt. He also goes on to credit James Vanderbilt for the idea behind bringing the Meeks-Martin twins into Scream 7 without the other half of the Core 4. He said, I believe it was James that came up with it. I want to give credit where credit is due, but it was an organic way why they would be in this movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say it's through Gale. That's interesting because, remember, the rumor is that those two work with Gale. So I'm now starting to think there is some truth to that rumor. That's not a rumor that I ever had passed my way, but it looks like there might be some truth to that. Because if it's through Gale, the immediate rumor I think of is that rumor that Chad and Mindy work with her. But he says Gale is the connective tissue in 5 and 6, and she's in this. New York was obviously a big part of that. She bonded with those 4, and there's a reason why these two come to this town where the action is happening. Whether that town is Woodsboro, California, or the as yet unnamed town where Sidney is in hiding, Busick couldn't say. It's not New York. I don't want to be the one to spoil where it is. It's an unspecified amount of time after Scream 6. I might get contradicted by other people, but in my mind, more than 2 years. I would say at least 2 years. It could be 2 years, but I would say 2 years plus. Now, that last comment there about the 2 years, it better be more than 2 years, because we're looking for some reasoning behind Sidney Prescott's teenage daughter. It needs to be at least 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 at best. Because if it's not, that's where people are having this issue with Scream 4 and this idea of, well, okay, it's painfully obvious you just threw a daughter in, aged her up, because Sidney didn't talk about any kids in Scream 4. People are taking issue with that. So the greater the time jump to match up with this teenage daughter, the better. It just makes it more believable and reduces that question around, well, where was Sidney's daughter in Scream 4? But yeah, she could have had a child prior to Scream 4. It just works better in your head for many of us that she had the child after the events of 4. That just works better. It feels a bit more better going down your stomach. But it's nice to know that they are talking about Sidney like this in regards to the fact that they have a legitimate reason for her to be in the story, which is something I always argue is crucial when it comes to this character. Not just Sidney, but any and all returning protagonists that are at the forefront of the narrative. That it goes for Sam as well, because I argue characters like Sidney Prescott and Sam Carpenter are not the long haul type of characters. They are not written in the style of a Gale Weathers, who you could plug into any and all movies. Sidney and Sam, they have a shelf life. They are working towards something, and when they get there, that needs to be the end. Yes, you can explore new arcs with them. Yes, you can do that, but just because you can doesn't mean you always should. And this idea that you need to do this with every character is asinine. Having these unhealthy attachments is what tends to contribute to this. Let them go. Sam and Sidney, when they reach their end, let them go. I have made peace with where Sam's story has ended. If you can concoct something that justifies her return years from now, I'm down for it. If not, leave it alone. But what do you guys think about his comments about there being a specific reason Sidney had to be in this movie? Obviously, the other things we have to consider is the rumors about the AI stuff. That stuff is coming. There's no doubt in my mind that stuff is going to be coming. And on top of that, the AI stuff could lend itself perfectly again to an angle in which you have somebody who is obsessed with Sidney Prescott, the final girl, and they wanted to see that come to life for the very first time, with them being the ones responsible for it. They wanted to experience their idol in real time, but they bring back old killers to taunt Sidney, like Roman, Billy, Stu, Dewey to taunt Gale. All of these people that were very crucial to Sidney when she was at her best. That is this person's mentality. I could see it going that path. I think it's just a phenomenal motive and an angle to take with a final girl like Sidney Prescott, who many would argue is about to get her true legacy sequel. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. In the description, I have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course, to let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.